Welcome back to the Daughters of the Moon podcast. We're grateful that you can join us for another week. And Mark
Sure.
and I are so excited today. We have Tessa Thraves on with us. Tessa, they client-centered and transpersonal hypnosis practice lets her specialize in spiritual exploration, past life regression, and self-resourced healing. A gay white Southern woman, Tessa is a hedge witch and a herbalist whose practices are rooted in connection with the natural world. Decades of experience in storytelling, mindfulness, somatics, and energy work all allow Tessa to help clients remember their own power and reclaim their own healing and wellness. Her approach to hypnosis is shaped by her personal and professional journey through trauma, loss, and personal transformation. She believes deeply in each person's capacity to access their own wisdom, shift old stories, and heal without re traumatizing. Her work centers empowerment, choice, imagination, and the innate ability we all have to create meaningful change. Trained by teachers from the Newton School, Life Between Lives, and certified in 2022, Tessa guides clients through past life regression to open block places, process emotional patterns, and reconnect with clarity, purpose, and inner knowing. She sees healings as both personal and collective, rippling outwards from the individual into communities through ancestral lines and across our soul lineage. She lives in Hillsborough, North Carolina, with her wife on a small homestead where they grow Asian vegetables, medicinals, teas, and mushrooms. She is honored to support clients seeking gentle, profound, spiritually grounded transformation. And we are super excited to have you on. So, welcome, Tessa.
Thanks. I'm so happy to be here. So happy to be with y'all. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into your path that you got into?
Yeah, roundabout way, I think. I mean, I say that, and my maternal grandmother was a horticulturalist and an herbalist and took me woods walking when I was tiny. And so much of where I am now, I can see is me coming back to ancestral patterns and loves and processes and so forth, thanks to her and my own mother too. But my kind of career path has been circuitous, and the only thing that ties it all together is storytelling. Um, and um, and storytelling in all the different ways, from writing. I was an oral history professor and an ethnographer doing community-based work. I taught creative writing. I've used embodied storytelling for healing multiple times before. I've done a lot of community-based organizing where storytelling was kind of the core of that process. And and while I have always had a kind of spiritual outlook on how I led my own life, it's only been this last career incarnation that I've brought that to the forefront, and I'm loving it. I'm really, really loving it. And Yeah, I think, there's so much in speaking story and how we bring those stories, whether it's like in our head or literally spoken out loud, whether it's spoken out loud to ourselves or to others, whether we're hearing other stories and repeating them back. Like there's so much embedded in the power of that, especially when you bring in the unconscious, where you bring in multiple generations, and so ancestral learning, and that leads right into soul lineage, that I think also like heals us personally and heals society. So, like yeah, storytelling is really the core for me. Yeah.
I think that's amazing because I think, so much is lost, I find, or getting so lost from bringing our history from the past into the future. And I know it's just kind of the time and day that we're in, but it feels almost like we're trying to erase history sometimes. And it's like, it's great that there's people like yourself and others that want to tell these stories about the lineage and tell these stories to help people to heal from trauma and things like that. And I think the more that we can spread those, the more that we have those outreaches to people.
Yeah. Yeah, and literally, literally telling those lost histories. Like one of my one of the experiences I'm most grateful for, again, not having to do with the work that I'm doing now, except in story, was working with a tribe in Virginia. I live in North Carolina in the south of the US, but in Virginia, and working with their youth group. And their parents and grandparents had denied their own heritage and their identity for survival, right? They've been subject to eugenics and documentary genocide. Walter Plecker, that's a whole nother podcast. I could talk forever about that. But these youth that I was working with, and I was doing oral history work with them, so they're talking to their elders, they're retelling the stories. And they're claiming their identity for the first time in generations, that they were proud of who they were and that they could say it out loud and that they could name it. And the visceral, like the ability to see the healing that was happening in that community and the power of that was incredible. And again, you bring kind of intentional and the physical practice of cultural identity, and that healing through ancestral lines becomes really obvious, the healing of the individual, but how that filters out into the stories of our cultural identity at large, and how that has the potential to heal us in an even bigger kind of wraparound of society. So, this is kind of part and parcel of that. And I've done a lot of work with youth, and I think that they're really keen to like see the power of stories. I've worked with youth and food justice here again in the South, and those kids like tell their stories about what their communities are going through with a power. And when we can do that individually, right,
Hmm.
we can heal all of the stuck stuff in us. We can
Yeah.
move that through. And when we do that, we're healing backwards through our ancestral line, we're healing through our soul trajectory, and we're also healing forwards, Like I would just like the power to reclaim and speak those stories is completely untapped in our society right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. True. Yeah.
It is
Wow.
very true. And I think, it's good to tell our stories because I think a lot of times as we're growing up and we've heard maybe ancestral stories or we've heard about past family members or whatever, we make up our own stories to some of it, and then I know like as we grow we start telling ourselves stories about ourselves which are often not true, but we put those kind of barriers around ourselves and sort of put ourselves into a little box. And I think with the I don't know, maybe that's where some of this trauma comes from is we start putting those labels on ourselves. And I don't know, maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we tell ourselves these narratives, right? We all do. So we all have these narratives that we tell ourselves of like, I am this, I do that, and they come from somewhere, right? Um, and and so it's a complete reflection of the kind of stuff I was talking about in society. So you've got like the microcosm in our own self, right? Because again, the microcosm and the macro, it's all the same thing, right? It's all connected. But so we're repeating these narratives and we repeat them over and over and over again. And so we're talking physiological, our synapses are firing in our brain to accept that story, to run to that story.
Yeah.
And um, and this is part of like why I've fallen in love with doing this alternate consciousness work of hypnosis and past life regression is like what happens in that state is that we can literally like clean out those pipes, right? So like a plumbing system where they could clean out all the stuck parts, open all the valves, and not only that, but like lay new pathways so that we can retell new stories or like unpack and release the stories that we've like said over and over again. And some of it's literally about speaking it out loud. Like I
Yeah.
think that that's part of the power of hypnosis is I'm sitting with you, but I'm just the facilitator. You're the one actually experiencing what you're going through, right? So Barb, you're experiencing it and you're telling me what's happening. And I'm
Right.
then telling it back to you. And
Right.
so like the amount of like hearing it and speaking it and saying it is like putting it in our bodies. And again, in this altered state of in a closer connection with our subconscious. And all of a sudden, like we're literally rewiring our brain,
Right.
physiologically. So it's not just about emotions and something woo-woo. It's literally science.
Yeah.
All that's the same to me. Like bring on the woo-woo, bring on the science. It's great.
A
Yeah.
question. If you, in a past life, if you had something that was a trauma, okay, something that triggered you and was trauma, making you go into trauma, could you pull that into this life as well so that those same traumas or those same triggers could create those kind of traumas without actually labeling you with PTSD or ADHD or whatever the case may be? Could that also be brought on from the past life? So we're already triggering off of things that people are saying to us. Is it like, could that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a
Yeah.
lot of clients come to me around something. It's two patterns. That there's literally a pattern, a repeating pattern. They keep doing the same thing, right? Like which we label insanity, right? We keep doing the same thing. It gets awful results, and we keep doing it again and again. Whether it's relationships or behavior patterns, or right. But then this other thing that is really common is speaks to what you're talking about is like the reaction that they're having to something is what I call outsized. Like this thing happens, but they react like this, you know? And I think
Okay.
anytime that's happening, and there may be reasons in this lifetime to react that way to something. But the way we're reacting, the way we're responding to it, can often really illustrate that it's coming from somewhere else too. And anytime we're having an outsized reaction to something or a pattern that we just can't let go, even though we're aware of it,
Right.
those are often repeating things from past lives, right? And again, it doesn't deny for a second that there's enough stuff in this life to demand a reaction or for it to be a trigger, for it to be something that causes us pain or something. But but when it's bigger, and I think most people know, like that you're like this is shouldn't be this much, right?
Mhm.
Or I should have figured this out by now. That's a common one too, right? Like
Yeah.
I know that this is a pattern. Why do I keep doing it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So,
so, what happens in that past life regression, and again, it's one of the things that I really love it, and there's kind of a foundational belief that's important in that work, if you come to that work, is that the soul is on its own journey and it chose this life, which is like kind of mind blowing for some folks, like especially folks who have a lot of trauma in this lived life. They're like, why would I have chosen this?
right.
Like that, you know, but the soul's on this big, huge trajectory, right? And this life is like one little sliver of what we're learning in that big pattern. And so what we're doing in a past life regression is we're asking to see a life from the past, and sometimes it's even from the future, right? But usually from the past that will aid us in this one.
Mhm.
So it's not just any life that's coming. It's a life that you need to help you process and understand through this one, or just experience to relieve those triggers and traumas that you're experiencing in this life. Yeah. And it's experience. And that's another thing I love about it. It's like I've got a psychic that I've worked with for decades personally, right? And she'll tell me about things that I've done, and I love her. But the difference in living through a past life versus being told you were, you lived in the desert and lost all your tribe and, that kind of thing. Like to be told that is a totally different experience than to be in it, right? So you're in it and you're telling me what's happening.
Mhm. Right.
And that that experience is part of what allows us to release those traumas, those triggers that you're talking about. And like it seems like, wow, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to go to a life that was full of trauma? So, but because your soul's already done it and you're walking through that, the state that you're in hypnosis allows you to know that you're safe, to know that you're grounded and held, right? This is the part of having a facilitator. You can do self hypnosis. It's a little bit of a different thing than to do it with somebody.
Right.
So you're feeling everything. You feel everything, but it's not re-traumatizing because you've already done it, and you know that you're okay. So it allows those emotions to move, right? Which is oftentimes what is causing the stuckness, which is causing the trigger responses. The pattern is that we've shut it down. We're like, we can't handle that pain. We can't handle going there. And so we don't, no.
Right. Right.
And so in that past life, you walk through those experiences, whether they're exactly the same, that's rare than what you're happening. Sometimes it is exactly the same thing.
Right.
But you're walking through that, and you feel all of that, and it literally releases stuff in your body so
Wow.
that so that you don't the healing happens just by doing a session.
Yeah.
I'm a Leo sun, but I've got Virgo dripping out my fingernails. I've got so much Virgo in my chart, right? So I am like obsessive about rituals and practice, and and I can talk a lot about that kind of stuff. But so there's also like all of this stuff you learn, and when I work with my clients, we go to the spirit realm after, and we sit down with guides or our higher self, like who comes forward depends on the person. And we say, like, why did I see that life? We ask all kinds of questions and you get answers, which is amazing, right?
Yeah.
And so you get all this information. You can also work with that afterwards, right?
Mhm.
Like I do integration sessions with some clients, but again, you've got the power. Like if you want to work with that information, you've got what you need to do it on your own.
Right.
Um, and so there are all kinds of things that you can do for practice to like really enhance the kind of mindfulness and awareness and learning and intentionality in your daily life to kind of, again, undo all those habits, undo all those patterns. But there's just an element of healing that happens just by doing this session. It's it's phenomenal. It
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
I know one time I had a past life regression, and it was quite funny because in this past life regression, I had died, was very, very sick, and I was 25 and I had no children and seemingly alone. And so it was very interesting for this life because at 25 was a push time for me where I felt like I needed to be married and have children by the time I was 25. And I never really understood that. I was like, what a weird age and why, right? And then after I had that,
Yes.
it gave me some piece of, okay, this makes total sense to me now of why I'm feeling that push in this life. And so I do think that when you're doing these things, it can help you be aware of things as we're moving forward. And I love that it helps you release some of the things that you've carried either from lifetime to lifetime or, yeah,
Yeah.
and we don't want to
Did you
carry
find
it.
it released that pressure that you
It
were
did.
feeling?
Yeah, it did. And it was actually after I'd had children and been married, but it was such like I just like as I was coming up to 25, I was just feeling this really like sense of like dread, like, oh my gosh, like I already had one son, so that part was good. But I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be married. I'm going to like be alone in that way. And it was just like, why is this? And then, anyways, I got married before I was 25 or
Good
right
for you.
right but it's just interesting. It was interesting to me just to see the correlation from that past life into this one, and that it released that, oh, that's why I was feeling so dreadful and such, because in this last life I died.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's intense, and again, like I mean, the patterns of lives that I see is really fascinating too. So, like, there can be there's a huge percentage of folks who like have something big and traumatic, like they die early or they're warriors, and I have people in my they're swinging swords like I'm just like okay but like big life, and everybody comes in wanting to be Cleopatra, like we want those big lives, but a lot of folks have these quiet lives where maybe it's a quiet life and they die early and they're like, wait, nothing happened in my life, or they live a long life and they die quietly and they're a shepherd on a hillside the whole time, and and they're like, what? and and it doesn't matter whether it's that big, wild, crazy story or this quiet life. People always leave going, oh, oh, that's why. That's what, it's like, again, because we've asked for a life that provides the answers. And so you saw the life that answered the questions that you were experiencing in this moment, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, again, you think about that soul trajectory, like how many lives we've lived. Of course, a lot of our lives have been quiet lives. I think we need those as a processing, especially after big lives, right? Like we need those lives that are like how we move through what we've learned and what we've processed. And sometimes those are more revelatory than those big adventures.
Mhm.
And so again, of course, in the reflection in the spirit realm, we get answers that are huge, no matter what we've just experienced in that life.
Yeah,
It's just
definitely.
phenomenal.
And so then if someone was to come to you and then they were to come back, like say at different parts of our lives, different things I think trigger us into remembering things. And well, that kind of was a two-part question. That was one of my
Bring it.
question statements. And then the other was, do you think that sometimes as we're going through life that we get these either, I don't know what to call them, signs or
Uh-huh.
memories or yeah, aha moments or something that is something from a past life that's trying to jar us back into something that we need to know?
Yeah, to the second part of the question, like I think we get those signs all the time. And the more you do this kind of work, the more connected your energy is to kind of universal and other life forms. Like, and so you're more aware of it. Like you're literally kind of building your capacity to be connected, not only to yourself and your past, your ancestors, but also the energy that's all around us all the time, right? So, like I mean, I see angel numbers all day long, every day, like all day long, every day. It's but you get those kinds of signs the more you do this work, like the more you meditate, or the more again you spend with spirit guides, or you talk to your ancestors. I mean, I think people who do that kind of stuff can tell you, like, the more you do it, the better it's habituation, right? Like, again, it's those synapses. Like, if you intentionally put time into being connected and receiving information, it gets easier and easier and easier,
Yeah.
right? But the same with the past lives, like, uh, you know, the, if you do a session, you can have information coming in hours, days, weeks, months, years later. Like, I give clients my cell number, which my wife hates that I do, but like, so they text me all the time. So like, it'll be like, I haven't seen somebody in 8 months, and I get this text that's like this long, and they're like, oh my gosh, Sheila did blah 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 blah. And it was just a download that they experienced, and then they're like, I get it, like, I get it, and it's just really beautiful. But I think that we don't have to do a session to experience that too. Again, like, the multiple ways. I mean, there's so many more modalities. Like, the folks that you have on your show, there's so many modalities that
Really.
help us build our capacity to be in tune with who we want to be, who we really are, how we fit into the energetic web that's around us, and do so with our whole self.
Yeah.
And this is just one of those.
Yeah.
It's one I love because I love imagination. Imagination is the language of the subconscious. So
Mhm.
again, I'm fascinated by storytelling and the narratives that we tell ourselves, and how we use that imagination to, like, tap in to being able to access that.
Mhm.
So I missed the first question again.
I
So
forget it now. So it probably wasn't that important. I think you
oh
answered
no.
I think you answered what I really wanted to know is that
Forget it
because
too.
because I often think like and my granddaughter laughs at me often because I'll be cooking and I'm like the ancestors are talking to me and she's like okay, yeah, whatever. But
Yeah,
it's true because when you start tapping into that, it's like I don't know, where'd you come up with that recipe? I don't know. It was just
right.
there. It came like so, and I
Absolutely.
trust in that. And I know, Mom, you have experiences too where you get, these messages that you're tapping into a past life or those kind of things. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
And trusting, like, that is key, right? And again, that's part of building that capacity. Like, the work that y'all do, like, I feel that, like, I benefit so much from my one-on-one clients because I'm I'm like in it with them, right? Like, I'm in a state of trance with them in a way, right? It's part of my process to go into a deep state before I ask them to come in it with me. And I come out in order to help them out, right? But um but so I'm in there with them, and I, like, get images of what they're saying, so I'm having my own experience of what they're experiencing, and it's also reflecting on my own experiences, right? So, like, I get a mirroring and a doubling of kind of that healing power. And I'm
Mhm.
guessing, like, every time y'all have conversations with the new um, practitioner of whatever kind, like, you're building your capacity. And when you can trust what's coming to you, when you can trust whether it's ancestors or your own intuition, right? When you can trust it and lean into it and do it, again, you're more in line with your whole self. I think
Mhm.
so many of us, and I've done this the majority of my life, right? Like, I'll be like, oh, I'm getting this message, and I'm working really hard to do something different.
Right.
mm,
Yeah.
I mean, we do it all the
yeah.
time. And like, but oh, well, I should do this or I should do that, or it makes more sense if I do, and like, what it would look like if we could just lean into that trust, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like put that quarter teaspoon of nutmeg in there and see what happens, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. It's like,
It's
oh,
interesting. We have these conversations on our podcast here with everybody, and then afterwards, Kim and I converse about what we've learned through it, and and it doesn't matter how many people we've talked to about different things, repetitive stuff. We still have something to learn, and and it just takes you deeper, like you were saying, and it's just something else we're learning, and then it just takes you into that easier. It's easier to receive then because you're constantly touching into wanting to know. I'm true Virgo too, where I need to know. Feed me the information and let me try to decipher this. And spirit is really great for letting you do that if you trust, like you say.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Really grateful. Really grateful. And again, like whether it's ancestors like knocking, hello, I told you you needed to, or our spirit guides or our own higher self, like, it's the answers, the messages, the signs, they're always there. And it's just like how much are we tuned in to be able to receive it?
mhm.
And then when we receive it, how much are we willing to like actually listen and go, okay, okay, I can do that, or I can give it a try.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or you go, wow, I knew that. How did I know that?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that came
yeah,
so easy. So it was already in there and already been delivered at some point, right? It was just a matter of reaching in and pulling it out, sort of thing. So yeah, absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, again, for me, it's like daily praxis is, whether again, it's like, when I do sessions with folks, I send them this big long um, page of notes afterwards. I send them a recording. I send them the notes because, especially not when I'm doing just hypnosis with folks, but when we're doing past life regressions, I think coming back to that story like can be really powerful. And I tell folks, I'm like, save it. You may not want it right now, but you may in a year, right? But I send them this long list of notes. And again, I'm transpersonally trained. So it's all about you. It's all about how you interpret. So there's no like, Freud says a snake means blah, blah. It's like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah.
Right. So my notes are like highlights of what I think is important. And there's some interpretation that I put in there, but I like say to folks, I'm like, this again, what resonates, great. What doesn't, just ignore it, right? That's yours. But there are all kinds of opportunities for praxis out of a session, right? So like there are always going to be symbols or things that happen or colors or identity elements in the actual narrative of that past life that really stand out to people or places or right. But then when we're in spirit realm, like spirit will like tell us things to pay attention to, or and I ask folks to ask for a symbol from their spirit guide, and like, and I literally ask them to have spirit put something in their hand. So if that's a rose quartz heart, that's really simple. But if it's an elephant, again, they're like all in their imagination. You can do anything when you're there. So like an elephant can be shrunken down and put in your hand, right? And then you have it. But taking those things like that, the journaling afterwards to like really concretize stuff, but taking those symbols and if you have an altar that you go to every day, like put that elephant on the altar, right? Or put that rose quartz in your pocket and feel it 3 times a day, but somewhere that you're actually like passing by or pausing and literally pausing, right? Like literally taking 3 seconds to like pause and receive, right? And then, but there are all kinds of praxis elements around that, like that an actual session involves. But I think the other thing that opens up is like when people do that and they're working with that narrative and things have been released, like we've got lots of stuff. So that's released, other stuff, like there's There's always more, right?
Mhm.
But but the process that you go through around the connecting, right? Like opens up too. So you've done this past life regression, you've put some praxis in around how to process and integrate the lessons learned from that story. And all of a sudden, like process and praxis, like, and I mean praxis as in the practice that has some intentionality behind it, is what I mean
Right.
by praxis. Um, is like possible everywhere, right? Like, what does it mean when I open the door and walk through? Like I'm literally walking from this realm into that realm. And to do that with intentionality is different than to just leave the house, right? Um, I like I have I mean, I have lots of practices that I like to share with folks, but like, like I do one with my coffee in the morning, and I use uh, coconut oil. I put a spoonful of coconut oil in my coffee. So I put that on the spoon and I put it in the empty cup, right? So I've put this thing that has all these omega 3s, this like health nugget for me, right? Like into my cup. And then I literally fill my cup up. So I'm like practicing abundance. I'm like literally filling my cup up while that intentionality dissolves into the cup. And then I stir it counterclockwise 3 times, releasing anything I need to release from yesterday. And then 3 times clockwise, bringing in what I want to bring in that day, right? Like health, safety, ease, like whatever it is. Um, and I'm just making my cup of coffee in the morning. But like
But
when
it's full.
when you embed intentionality into these small things, again, the messages come that much easier. The big challenges that come to you have something to fall into, have a container to fall into that reminds you you are not trying to figure this out with your brain all on your own, but that you've got spirit, you've got, and I just like, I really believe all those practices are kind of key. And this work is just, a process into that for me. I think about, during COVID, did y'all have this? We all of a sudden we're washing our hands all the time in COVID. Do you remember this early
Yeah.
on?
Oh yeah.
And
Oh
you're like
yeah.
washing your hands like a surgeon level frequency, right? Like, and I don't know what happened up there, but down here, there were tons of people who were like, oh, well, to remember how long to wash your hands, you sing the ABCs or you sing happy birthday. And I'm like, what? And there's this whole movement of like folks who instead like practice a loving kindness hand washing ritual. So you're washing your hands and you're like, may I be healthy? May I be safe? May I be at ease? May my loved ones be healthy. May they be safe. May they be at ease. May my broader community be healthy, be safe, and be at ease. May the world be. And it's the same thing, but there you are multiple times a day thinking about how you connect to your community, connect to your world. And the difference in that from singing happy birthday, right? And so like
Yes.
that's just an example of like where and how we find our own practices that deepen our own connection to self and thus energy and the world, ancestors, soul lineage, our society. Like, then there's the real potential for moving energy, for like making energy something that we intertwine in our world, recognize, honor in our world, and so we have a relationship with it, then it's more mutable and we're more mutable, right?
Yeah, I love that. I also do something similar with my coffee in the morning. So it's
Oh,
just
yay.
but it's interesting, right? Because I started doing the practice, I hadn't been doing it, and then I started doing it, and yeah, it's I don't know, you're putting your intention. And I love what you said about walking through the door, like it's almost like a portal. And, because I think when we start looking at these everyday things that we do with more imagination, more intentionality, it just creates a different wave to go out throughout the world to heal, to help, to, be more in community with each other.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, just the broad sweeping philosophy of it, of like whether we're doing things just by rote or whether we're doing things with intentionality, you know,
Mhm.
and with care. And again, like what a mindfulness practice in washing our hands might do for our larger society that's like in turmoil or struggle versus what is it going to do for them if we're singing happy birthday to ourselves, right?
True. True.
And what are we
Very true.
teaching our kids?
I like
Like,
it.
think of all of those kids that we're like, we're teaching our little ones to wash their hands, to do the thing, and to also be teaching them mindfulness and loving kindness at the same time. Like, what in the world? Why would you not? Why
Yeah.
Yeah.
would you
Why would you
not?
not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly. I love like a couple of things that I've seen on it, and you'll see these little videos of these young girls or young boys, and they're in the mirror and they're like, I'm beautiful, I'm
Mm.
courageous, I'm smart. And I'm just like, oh, like that, you can just feel it when you're listening to it. And like, I don't know, for me, anyways, it's like my little child is like, oh, yes, I am that too. I want to say that with you. You want to jump into that
Yeah. Yeah.
feeling, right? And it just, yeah, like, I don't know. It's a super emotional time for me right now. I don't know what cosmetically is or cosmo stuff is happening, but it just feels like
It
it's
is.
very watery, emotional time right now.
It's a very intense time for
Yeah.
sure.
You can just,
Yeah.
but I think anything like that, that you feel into your heart like that, and then you can do some of these things to send that outwards, right? I think that's what we want is these, instead of these waves of contention that seems to be in our world, is we want to have these waves of peace and love and happiness.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
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 And so the whole like the work that I do, it's all wrapped up in that. It's all literally about kind of remembering your power, like remembering, like putting back together
Yeah.
the access that we have to our own internal wisdom, our own
Yeah.
internal strength, our own internal healing. That it's us, and so again, I'm just a facilitator,
Right.
guiding folks, but who I'm working with is doing the work, right? And
Mhm.
has the power and has the strength. And so I'm just trying to awaken their ability to remember that, and to really tap it and use it. Um, and then again, like, that can heal a particular situation or provide particular guidance at a needed time. But it can be part of a practice, like I've got some clients who are ongoing, I use hypnosis as kind of a coaching, and I see them
Mhm.
every few weeks or every month. And, it just remembering, because nothing in this broader society actually helps that, except programs like yours. But
Oh,
you
thanks.
know what I'm saying? I mean, there are a lot, again, like it's not about just the work that I do. It's about work like this that's about connection,
Yeah.
and about access,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to that internal and to the broad.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I really, really love it. I really appreciate how many modalities there are for doing this kind of work, and for folks to find what works for them,
Mhm.
Yeah, I think so
Absolutely.
too. And I think it heals your body. Like I know even last night, like I was trying to go to sleep and my brain wouldn't shut off. And I'm like, okay, like you got to get up in 5 hours. You just stop, right? And so it's like, okay, well, first I was like, okay, talking to my higher conscious, be like, okay, can you just help me out here? And then I'm like, I'm gonna Reiki myself.
Yeah.
But you pull these things in, and I think, by talking to people like yourself, where you're telling people like all this stuff is in our own hands, right? And, it's great to go to someone that can facilitate past life regressions or Reiki or readings and things like that. But we have this power for ourselves. And so, you've woven such a beautiful story to all of our followers with
Yeah.
what you've said today that I think will inspire them to understand that they have this power within themselves. So
Yeah.
thank
Everybody does.
Good. I mean, that's the message we want to spread, right?
you.
Yeah,
So
for
can
sure.
you tell everybody where they can find you then?
Yeah, my website is twocrowshypnotherapy.com. And you can sign up for newsletter. It says that newsletter. I don't write more than once a month, so it's not very often. It's sometimes not once a month. Um, but you can sign up there for that to find out about, like, I've got some promos going on now that I think will be gone by the time this airs, but I'll have new ones. So yeah, and I do free consult with any potential client. Again, I find that energy connection and like them knowing my process. So I like lay it all out and share and um, that it's the right modality for them and that it's the right time and the right approach. And I really love that. And I think it's important. It's an extra step. And I think it matters. So that's free. So you get to talk to me and see whether you really want to do this and what you want to do. Again, right? Have some options. Past life regression is my favorite. I think it's just incredibly profound. But
Oh,
um, yeah, you get to hear my process and check out the energetic fit that we have and schedule a consultation from there. And yeah, I do these online. People ask about that all the time. But I have some clients that come into my office. Most of those, again, obviously they're local and they're folks who don't feel safe at home because you can't do this work if you don't feel safe
right,
because the hypnosis itself is self hypnosis. Like you decide you're going into this, you're conscious, you're awake, you're in control. I'm not making anybody dance like a chicken. um and so you have to be in a space where you're choosing to do this work, and you
right.
believe that you can do this work, and anybody can.
Yeah,
And so I really found that online, like not only is my breadth bigger, but people are in their own space, and so they're comfortable, and so they settle in more immediately. And when we come out, instead of having to get in their car and drive somewhere, they like can start integrating right away, and they can do that and really let things soak in. And I can do this amazing recording that the quality is 100 times better than what I do with the folks in my office. And
right,
like, I just love it. And there's no difference. Again, like I'm teaching you how to do this while I'm doing it. And
right,
so, again, it really is about you tapping into your imagination as the language to touch your own
mm,
subconscious. And it's easy. It's
I love
easy.
that. I
It's
love that.
so easy. Yeah.
right.
I love that.
And
And that was going to be one of my questions if you did it virtually. So see, you just are already reading my mind of what I was going to
Well, it's just
well,
the things
I
people
was thinking
ask,
that.
right? Yeah,
say.
no, it's great. And I have clients literally all over the world. So sometimes I'm doing these things at really weird times. But other than that,
Yeah.
yeah, it's lovely.
So if you had a, did you have a question?
No, I was fine sitting here
If you had a
listening.
final thought to leave with all of our followers and us, what would it be?
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. I think it just come back to that remembering your own power, like to really believe that even in the depths of temporary despair that we can feel, right? And those things are real. I am not denying that we get into spaces where we are in pain, we are suffering, we are struggling, either with our external world or our internal world or both. or multiple, but there is healing that is possible, and it is in your own control.
Yeah.
And you may need assistance to get to a place where you can reclaim that, but it's doable. It is doable, and it's beautiful. Being who you are is a beautiful gift, not only to yourself, but to the world.
I love that. That's a wonderful message.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yes. Well, we so appreciated you being on with us today and
Appreciate
sharing
y'all.
wisdom with our followers. So thank you so much. Hopefully you'll come back sometime and do another one with us.
I'd
And
love that. I'd love
Okay,
that.
or live with us too.
That'd be
yes,
great. That'd be
yes.
super. Yeah, I love
That
talking
too.
to y'all. I love all y'all have to share. It's really
Okay.
beautiful work you do. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you.
so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank
Thank you.
you.
And
You
everyone
keep it up
else,
too.
we will see you on the other next one.
You bet.